Hello, it's Karen, the Weekend Craftaholic. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to do a 12 by 12 layout, and this will be not a Scraplift as such. I'm not copying someone else's designs, but what I am doing is copying Missy Whidden's style. So if you've not seen Missy Whidden, she's finally got her YouTube channel back after, I don't know, it must be like 9 months, 7 months, not sure, and I have been maxing out watching her videos and so inspired. Now she, if you've not seen her, is famous for her layouts. She does amazing layouts, and she always uses gesso. So what I've done, I'm using the Bloom Street collection by Paige Evans. I'm sure you're familiar with this, but if you're not, I'll put all the links down below for everything I used today. And I've already prepped this 12 by 12 sheet with clear gesso, and the gesso is going to make it waterproof. So I have got so far my photograph that I want to use. This is my son Martin and our dog Fudge, and I've also got this cut file from Paige Evans from her Etsy store, and it's actually Best Friends Forever is the cut file, and I've just cut the forever bit out, so I've just been left with Best Friends. And because they are absolutely best friends, and I know I want to use it kind of in this style and that kind of layout, but I have got all my die cuts ready to go. I've got lots of scrap paper in here that I'm going to back this cut file with, and as well as some other bits and pieces like the sticker book, and I'm not sure yet if I'm going to use another one of these titles. I don't have a particular layout in mind. I do know I want to add some stitching, and I also want to do some coloured mixed media at the back, which again I'm obsessed with watching Missy Whidden do. She just makes it look so effortless, so fingers crossed I can make something that looks good enough to use for the back of these. I will be putting quite a lot of this on fast forward as well, just because it does take quite a bit of time to back these cut files and to add the mixed media. And so I'm going to start with the mixed media background, and then whilst that's drying I can then get on to backing my cut files. Now this page has curled a little. I should have left it flat with the gesso, but I'm sure I will be able to fix that. So I've really been wanting to practice this technique for quite some time now. She makes it look so easy when she does it. I've got myself this set of watercolours, but I have to say I am no way an artist. I have been spending a lot of time practicing watercolour techniques, but obviously not in this kind of layout mixed media type setting. So what I'm doing here, I'm applying a bit of colour, and at the same time just kind of tapping the brush to add dots as well at the same time. I keep spraying it as well just to add a bit more moisture. That's just with my Tim Holtz Distress sprayer, just to try and get that colour moving around on the page a little bit. Even though I've got the gesso underneath, I am still a little bit nervous that I'm going to saturate this page too much. But as you can see here, it does move quite a bit. I feel like what I probably would have needed was some of those liquid concentrated watercolours just to get a darker colour as my background. Because as you've just seen, as I try and wipe away that excess moisture, that water liquid, it does take a lot of that pigmented colour away as well. Choosing a mix of those blues and those reds just to give it some contrasting colour against this layout. Okay, so I'm quite happy with the way that's done now. Obviously Missy makes it look a lot easier than it actually is, and I'm just afraid to risk ruining it, to be honest, because I love this paper and I do only have one sheet of that. So I think what I'm going to do now is let it dry, and then I can move on to doing the cut files to back this. But what I am going to do once this is dry, which I'll do off camera, is just make some random stitching lines at the top and bottom, cut off the manufacturing strip, and then we should be ready to put our layout together. Before I do that though, I am going to get out these metallic paints. These are very cheap and cheerful ones that I got from Spotlight here in Australia. They were like $5. But these do have a gorgeous shim on them, so they give a nice shimmery finish to the layout. So what I'm going to do is, they're not very well pigmented, that's the only problem, but they do give a nice shimmer effect. Now you saw before the watercolours that I used previously weren't really very dark. The colour's fine, it's blends in, I guess, with that kind of subtle effect of the background pattern paper. But what I wanted to do here, as I've just mentioned, is just to try and add a bit of shimmer. So I'm doing exactly the same technique and kind of dabbing it on, not really brushing it, but dabbing it here, there at the edges, and then also using my brush just to splatter some of that colour. Now I often keep my scraps at the front of my book here. So we will make a start using up these first. Okay, so I didn't want you to have to watch me back all of these, but I am going to show you just how to do one of these just whilst I'm in the process of doing this. Because if you've not used cut files before, I just want to talk you through my process of doing this and how to back them. So obviously if you've got an electronic cutting machine, it's going to be a lot easier for you. But you could always fussy cut them as well, so don't let that deter you, especially a simple file like this, which is just lettering, would be easy enough with an X-Acto knife, for example, to cut those out. But to back the cut files, what I do, as you've just seen there, I turn both pages around, so you've effectively still got it the right way around for your pattern. So in other words, I put my cut file on top, make sure I like the image that's going to come through, turn them both over, put my cut file on the other side, draw around it with my pencil. When I cut it out, as you can see here, I'm leaving probably a couple of millimeters distance around, because what I've done is when I've drawn that pencil line, it's on the inside. So if I was to cut on that pencil line, it would fit exactly inside, and I obviously want a bit of a lip to glue it to, so you don't actually see that unless you did want it to sit absolutely inside, but it'd be very hard to get that accurateness. So before I do apply the glue, I just place it, make sure it's where I need it to be. And if you're not sure, I would err on the side of caution and make it cut a little bit further out, because you can always trim it away once you've glued it on if you've got too much, but obviously you can't put it back once it's taken away. And I absolutely love this Nouveau adhesive as well, because the nib is so tiny. You don't use a lot of glue. The other thing I love about it, obviously with it being liquid glue, is you can wiggle it around a little till you've got it in the right place that you want. And then I flip it over and my little letter has been backed. So I've just got this last letter to do, and then we'll be ready to get on with the layout. Okay, so the cut file is now done. The other thing I did want to say actually is you can get heaps of cut files free, so if you've not used them before, download a free one and just have a play. I always like to order the 6x8 pad rather than the big 12x12 because the patterns are a lot smaller, so they obviously fit better in a cut file as well. You'll see more of the detail, for example, of the flowers. So give that a try as well. Okay, so let's move on to our layout. The piece is dry and I've cut up my strip, and I've also stitched it, so it's really hard to see on here. But I'll do some close-up pictures at the end so you can actually see the full effect. And hopefully you can see the shimmer now of those metallic paints, because it does shimmer quite a bit. So I really love that. There you go, you can see there a little bit of that translucent shimmer as well, which I really like. So I've put you on fast forward now. I'm just going to do a little bit of a voiceover as I speed up this process, because it does take quite some time. I'd probably say about 20 minutes or so just to finish off this layout now that all the pieces are on. So you can see here I've just decided to back this photo just against one of the 6x8 sheets, and I really love this design in this colour. It's gorgeous and it gives a nice little interest at the side of that. I've got this, I think it's children's craft foam actually. It's not adhesive whatsoever, so you can see I'm just adding adhesive to both sides of that, and then I'm just going to place that on my picture as well. I wanted it to be slightly off center, but what I will do with the actual cut file itself, which is my title for this layout, is just add some glue dots on the back here. These are just some, they're quite thick actually. These are from scrapbook.com. I really like the size of these and the height they give as well, but I'm going to measure that and line it up so it's straight along with that hexagonal pattern that's on the paper itself. So I'm really liking the placement of that now, and I'm just going through these die cuts and I'm just trying to find some things that I can add to this as well. So I absolutely love these flowers. This one I loved as well. I really wanted 3 different flowers, so I thought if what I would do is cut off that quote so that I've got my placement here, this visual triangle you always hear people talk about with the 3 different flowers. But then I realised these are quite large die cuts as well, so one thing I often do is cut them in half just to make them stretch a bit further. So now it actually looks like I've actually got 5 flowers tucked in there, not just the 3, and it does, as I say, help to stretch those a bit further when these are so big. So I'm just tucking them over. I'm trying to keep the leaves and the edges lifted off slightly as well, just to add a bit more to that dimension. And then I'm just tucking in now off the sticker sheet some of these flowers as well. One of the sheets has got this gorgeous little group of washi strips as well at the back. So I've just included that as a frame for the bottom of my photo, as well as including this of little sticky which just has the words happy. So I've added that as well at the bottom of the photo, and then because I do have quite a bit of white space on the photograph at the top right hand side, I've added a flower there as well. So I'm just having a look really and trying to think what things can I use from this sticker book. There's not a lot actually, they are quite small, so I think these probably lend themselves better to a 6x8 layout. But there's a few little love hearts that I wanted to use, as well as some more little flowers just to balance those across. Now I've got this ultra fine painter's pen, this is in white, and I'm just going as an outline against all of those flowers and my picture frames before finishing off by adding some journaling. It's not something I normally do, but as this is a Scraplift from Missy Whidden style, she does this quite often, so I'm going to replicate that on here as well. And that is my layout done. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Please come back soon for another crafting video.